Hello and welcome to Seatrade Cruise Talks. I'm Chiara Giorgi, Global Brand and Event Director for Seatrade Cruise, and today I'm chatting with our Tech Ambassador, Ian Richardson. With 20 plus years of experience in both IT and cruise, Ian co-founded theICEway, a leading managed services provider and consultancy whose ecosystem of tech companies understand the challenges of IT at sea. So welcome, Ian. So happy to have you here today.
Glad I'm here. Yeah, I'm really excited about being the Seatrade Global Technology Ambassador. It's been a really good year in terms of all the content that we've managed to put out. So yeah, feel really privileged to be here.
Yeah, we've done a lot, and I'm excited to see it. The one unfortunate thing is all the content that we prepared for Seatrade Cruise Global 2020, we never got to deliver, but I'm sure over the next year we'll be able to deliver a lot of that content.
Yeah. The thing with technology is it moves so quickly. So after 6 months, it's out of date. So you just have to keep up to date with everything. So that's
absolutely.
Thing.
So I like to start right at the beginning. So where did you grow up?
Okay, so I guess I grew up in the north, in a north of England, in a small little village in between Liverpool and Manchester, in the countryside, about 45 minutes away from the Lake District. So I was kind of very, it was a pretty happy childhood, just outside all the time, playing on my bike, camping, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it was a nice childhood. I was the youngest of, or I'm the youngest of three brothers. And my mum was a teacher at the local school, and my dad was a pharmacist, a retail pharmacist. So he had a chemist shop. It's actually, I think it was my dad that I got my love of technology and entrepreneurial spirit from, actually, because back in the 70s and 80s, when he had his little chemist shops, everything was manual, and he had these big books, reference books called MIMS, which was full of drug interactions and that kind of thing. So that when he was prescribing a prescription for a patient that he got from a doctor, he would have to check against all these books to see if there was any drug interactions that the patient might be on. And what he did was, it was around about in the early 80s when personal computers started coming on sale. He bought one and developed a bit of a hobby of coding. And what he decided to do was basically digitalize his chemist shop. So he got all these big old books and put them into a database, and then developed a pharmacy labeling system. So it actually printed out the labels on the bottles, so you didn't have to write them down. So I kind of grew up surrounded by computers and bits of old kit and that kind of stuff, and so I learned to code quite early. And just sort of always had technology around me. So that was my childhood growing up.
Did he teach himself how to code?
Yeah, he taught himself. And then I think when he got a bit, when his company started taking off, he ended up sort of selling the shop, and then obviously kind of grew the company and got developers in that were much better than him, and just got games developers actually to develop the system, because they were the only people that were actually developing code with the people that were developing games back then. So it was interesting. He had we're quite a musical family. We all play instruments. My dad actually had a sideline when he was at university as a club promoter. He used to run a jazz club night, and that's where he met my mum actually, because she was a singer in a band. So that sort of carried through, because when I was at university studying IT at Manchester, my sideline was DJing. So I used to DJ at the clubs in Manchester and study IT during the day. And this was back in the crazy days of when the New Order and the Happy Mondays and Stone Roses and all those sorts of bands were around. So it was, yeah, it was good.
Somehow not surprised that you're a DJ. I don't know why. I've known you for a few years, but that doesn't come as a surprise
It
at
was.
all.
I know it's funny because I mean, actually, the last time I was in Miami was about a year ago. I think it was last January when we
Okay.
were last allowed to travel, and I was there seeing some clients, obviously in Miami. But that was the last gig I went to because I went to see New Order at the Fillmore on South Beach, and yeah, I think that was their last gig as well. So yeah, I'm hoping I'm going to get back this year and see him again.
Yeah. I think we're all hoping to at least get back to Miami and then go from there. So then,
September.
yes, September. We should be there all together. So you said you went to university for IT. So what happened between there and the ICEway?
Well, I moved to London from Manchester. I did try to become a DJ professionally for about a year, and I kind of thought, no, I need a proper job. So I moved down to London in about 1995, and I really wanted to be, because of this love of music, I really wanted to be a sound engineer, even though I had an IT background, because it's kind of like the fusion between music and technology. So I wanted to be behind a mixing desk. So I moved down to London and just went door knocking on every single studio in Soho. And Soho back then was the sort of epicenter of all the studios in the UK. And I managed to get a job with one of the leading post-production studios called Grand Central, and they did a lot of adverts, all the main adverts you see on the television, but they also did some post-production for films like Saving Private Ryan and Monsters Inc. and that kind of thing. So that was exciting because I just moved down to London and I was working in this sort of place. But I was working in the booking department there and also ended up running their IT as well because of my IT background. But I never got behind a mixing desk. It was just never going to happen for whatever reason. I think they just saw me too valuable as sort of underneath the desk, you know, cabling everything as opposed to actually working the desks. So I was kind of a bit disillusioned after a couple of years working there, and about around then I met Connor, who's my business partner, who you know, and we got introduced by a school friend of mine that was also in London, and he said, "Oh well, you have to meet our IT manager because he's looking for an extra pair of hands." So I went for I met Connor for lunch. I think I remember it was the Shakespeare's Head in Carnaby Street, and we met for a lunch, as you did back then. And I think we had about 10 or 12 pints of Guinness, and just talked about, set the world to rights, and became sort of very good friends. And I had a job at the end of the day. So I started to work for him at his company. They worked in retail, in the retail industry, which, as you're probably aware, the retail industry is like that all the time. So I worked there for about 4 months, then got made redundant. So that was unfortunate. So I was out of work again. And I was looking I was getting contract work, just doing short-term contracts in the city, working in the banks, doing kind of Windows and Office upgrades and that kind of thing. And I got this call from a recruitment agent who said, "Do you fancy this 3-month contract to move it's a well-established cruise line or UK office of a cruise line from one building to another? It's just a 3-month contract." And I thought, well, I was kind of enjoying working in the city, and I don't know anything about cruise or travel, but I thought, okay, well, what the heck? It just seems like quite an interesting project, and I'll do it. But I got there and just completely fell in love with the product and fell in love with the people, and never really looked back since.
And I think that's a very common thing in the cruise industry. It's either you come and you leave really fast, or you come and you stay forever. So
yeah, I think people have. Yeah, I've certainly noticed that. That was So that company was Norwegian Coastal Voyage, as
Okay.
then they were, who then turned into or rebranded to Hurtigruten.
Mm. Very cool. And so then from there to theICEway.
Okay, well, yeah. So I mean, yeah. So for Hurtigruten, I did the 3-month contract to move them, and it all went very well. But the systems back then were very, very archaic and legacy. This was in the late 90s, so they had a really old AS4. I won't get too technical, but they had really old AS400 green screen type system, no
Okay.
sort of mouse clicks or anything like that, and it was very inflexible, and they really couldn't do much with it. So I remember saying to the managing director then at the time, I said, you need to get off this old legacy system and move to a more modern platform. And he just laughed at me and said, no, that's never going to happen. It's too ingrained in our business. We're too specialized. And he was right in some ways, because he gave me a small budget to look around to see whether I could find another system to get them onto. And he was right. There was really nothing that would fit their business. So then I asked him for some more money, and said, well, we'll develop our own. So we developed a custom bespoke system just for their business, because this was for the Hurtigruten coastal business, which is very unique. It's not really a cruise. It's a cross between a cruise and a ferry and a bus service, because people get on and off up and down the coast. So you can't just get any system and make it fit. So we developed this system and called it Polar. And then that we were taking all the prices and everything from the Norwegian head office system and feeding it into the UK system, and then packaging it up with flights and hotels, and it just gave them better documentation and all sorts of things. So that really gave me so much experience into the whole sort of booking journey and the way that travel is managed. That really gave me the kind of experience or the first steps of experience that I've got into the cruise industry. But I'd sort of taken Hurtigruten as far as I could, and I got to about 2004, and I started getting this itch that I needed to scratch, which was basically I wanted to set up my own business. And I think that was because of my dad having his own business. So I set up my own business I left Hurtigruten in 2004 and set up my own business. And I'd always kept in touch with Connor, and he'd done something similar about a year earlier. So I did that and started building up my own small number of clients just as a one-man band. And I got after about a year, I landed quite a big contract with Maersk, the shipping company. And that was going to really keep me very, very busy. So I said to Connor, can you look after all my clients that I've built up? And he took over all my clients. And then about a year later, we just said, well, let's just merge our business, because we're sharing each other's work. So we did that, and then set up shop. We started ICE, which, if you don't know, I think you probably know what it stands for. Do you know what kind of what
I actually don't.
No? So ICE stands for Ian, Connor, and everybody else.
Nice.
So that's what it stands for. So and back then we did have an everybody else, because I think we employed two or three other people, and we were all crammed into this little cabin at the bottom of Connor's garden, which we've got a blog and some pictures of the old cabin actually on the website if you wanted to have a look. It's
I'll have to check it out for sure.
So, and then some of those early staff, actually most of them that we had back then, are still employed with us today. So they're still with us. So yeah, after about we could only do about 6 months in the cabin, and then we got some proper offices in the town centre and started building a proper service desk. And it's that's kind of led to sort of picking up more and more cruise clients. And then we got a call, I think, from Hurtigruten again, who we hadn't heard from for about 3 or 4 years. And they said, that system you developed in the UK, well, we'd like you to globalize it. We want to roll it out in every single market. And they had markets in France and the US and Germany and all over the place. So that was really the thing that kind of got us really into the cruise
Mm,
industry, not just reservation systems, but that led on to, we then replaced their inventory system, their main inventory system, and then went onto the ships and replaced all their onboard systems as well,
mm,
all the point of sale and everything
mm,
like that. So that really gave us a lot of experience, and we were supporting the ships with our service desk till about 2016, by which time we'd developed a lot more cruise clients.
mm,
So, but we only actually decided to rebrand from ICE to theICEway
mm.
about 18 months ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's quite a new, and there was two reasons why we did that. One is because ICE has
Mm,
quite a different connotation in the US, and everybody thinks when we come in that we're from immigration. So we occasionally see people hiding under desks and things like that when we go in. But the main reason why we did it is because we do have quite a special way of doing things, which is quite unique. And that special way we do things, the ICE way, if you like, is driven really from our core values, which are people, integrity, and innovation. So
mm,
they're the three core values, and those are really ingrained in everything that we do at the ICEway, and we've implemented them into our recruitment procedure, our standard operation procedures, our sales and marketing, and also our delivery. So we even actually say we promote our employees to challenge their managers if they feel like their manager is making a decision or doing something that is against the core values of the business. So that's kind of how we keep that core of the business and the culture, upholding right back to the old cabin days, if you like.
mm.
And that's really stood us in good stead this last year, because it's been a tough year for everybody, you know. So
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, yeah, how has this year been? I mean, what have you seen? Because we all know that, tech plays such a big role
mm,
in not only the cruises that are floating right now, but the ones that are being built. And I feel like there was a lot going on behind the scenes, especially from the innovation perspective. So what does that landscape now look like?
well, in terms of how the last year has been, it's been, as I said, quite tough. It was supposed to be our best year yet. We were really on a growth
Mm,
spurt. We had 4 or 5 big system reservation projects that were ongoing, and we had about 15 dry docks. So, I mean, one of the things we do is we send engineers, because our engineers are based in Europe.
mm,
We were closer to the shipyards
mm,
than the US lines, so we end up sending engineers into the yard to fix a lot of things and do a lot of the upgrades. All those got cancelled. A lot of the project, 90%
mm,
of the projects got cancelled. Um, but fortunately, we have had the recurring revenue of our managed service and hosting that we've been able to kind of fall back on. That's been able to keep us going. So, I mean, one of the things we've been doing over the last year is really, and it's been a happy coincidence, really. One of the good byproducts of this last year is the time it's given us.
mm,
It's because we've not had all these big projects going on. We've just been able to focus on our innovation,
mm.
and we've come up with we've just developed a number of, or accelerated the development of a number of products that we've been working on, that are very, very niche, and they're all about improving the IT operations on board ships. So
Okay.
one of them is kind of a time zone server product, where, I don't know if you know, but when ships cross time zones, it causes all sorts of problems with the devices on board, because they all get out of sync, and then they have financial problems and all sorts of operational problems. So we developed a really simple solution called TZ Chromar, which basically just allows the IT operations people on board to um, set when they want to change the time according to the ship time, and then
Mm,
all the devices on the ship just automatically update. So that's been really, really good, and we've just rolled that out on the first major ship,
that's
which is sailing in, hopefully next month, I think.
okay.
Yeah. Um, and then another product that we've been focusing on is this Fit to Go, which was originally developed for the expedition cruise lines. So it digitizes the whole medical forms process. So when you have to upload your medical forms or fill in your medical forms, so it tries to get rid of all the paper. So it's going back to what my dad did all those years ago. Is we try and look at all the areas of inefficiency within the booking journey of the passenger and the crew, and try and digitize that to make it more efficient. So there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. So I think this year, even though I don't think anybody would want to repeat it, I think there's always I'm a natural optimist, you know. So I think I can always look at the positives that have come out of it. I think it's been a good year for many respects.
I agree. I think we all had to, you know, take a step back kind of and look at everything that we've been doing, and actually we do now have the time to look at things that we've never had time to look at before. I know, you know, we've accelerated strategy that we were seeing as something that was, you know, 3 years down the line. We brought that forward. So yeah, I'm the optimist like you. So I try and stick to the positives that have come out of this past year. So wait, so you've been in the cruise industry for some time now. And going back to my previous point, you know, tech and innovation has definitely been a big piece of the growth of this industry. So what are some of the biggest areas of growth that you've seen over the years from the tech and innovation side?
I think obviously it's just the move towards mobile and the digitalization has been the biggest area. When I first got into the industry, it was very paper based, and we've seen obviously with the growth of the internet over the last sort of 20 years, and everybody getting online, certainly, you know, the idea of B2C, you know, business to consumer websites has changed the focus a lot. You know, travel agents have had to really change their model in a way to cope with the direct sales. You know, in terms of now the travel agencies, people won't walk into shops. They've switched their model around to be travel counselors now, you know, and to go into people's homes and give that extra personal service that they can't get on board. They can't get by walking into a travel agency. So the whole growth of the internet has really changed the cruise line technology a lot with the digitalization and obviously the mobile apps and that kind of thing. And we've only just touched the surface before COVID, and now I really think that COVID has accelerated everything to become contactless because of necessity, and that's really happened over the last year. But it was going to happen anyway. I just don't think it would have happened as quickly. So
another acceleration, right? That's happened.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I'd say that would be my next question. Is there anything that you're seeing right now or that you know is looming that you're excited about?
Yes, there is. I think there's going to be a lot. I don't want to give too much away because there's a lot that's coming out on April the 14th for the Seatrade virtual, but there is. I mean, things like virtualized muster, you know, the idea of virtualizing the whole muster, some of the contact tracing technology that or some of the things that the cruise lines have put in place to do with contact tracing. When you think that governments of countries could not get this right, and there's been so many billions spent on contact tracing that hasn't worked, and the conversations that I've had with various business leaders and execs in the cruise line of how they've overcome the various challenges, not only of just getting contact tracing to work, but getting it to work in a ship, which is a steel shell. So getting these little Bluetooth, you know, tracing wearables to actually work out that they're surrounded by steel and there's going to be lots of reflections. There's so much complexity and so many challenges that they've had to overcome. Yes, yet they've got these contact tracing systems working. within 100, with 100% accuracy, which is just phenomenal. Which is just, the industry is ridiculously resilient, and it's always innovating. Which is, we're going to see a lot of that to be talked about on the Tech Day.
Yeah, I think we're all excited for that day. It'll be
But
good.
But I also think, I mean, in the short term at least, I think there's going to be a real focus in the next couple of years in the industry about operational efficiency. I think obviously budgets have all been cut. I think now, even though they've had to spend a lot of money on getting the return to service technology in place, they still need to look at the longevity of some of these solutions that they're putting in to make sure that there is a demonstrable return on investment, and it is actually impacting the customer experience for the good things. That none of the cruise lines want to invest millions and millions of dollars into something that they're going to throw away in 6 months. It has to be something that's going to survive. So I think that a big area in the next couple of years is going to be about looking at the operational cost of vessels and the IT operational cost of vessels, and seeing how you can drive down the cost through good data analysis and automation. And that's another area we've been working in, is looking at the Internet of Things and assets of how you manage all these devices on board to drive down the operational cost. And because I really think in the next few years it's going to be really high focus, and that's another, we've got a panel on that, I think, on the Tech Day, is about the future of fleet IT investment and the way that budgets are going to be scrutinized, which should be quite an interesting discussion.
I think that will probably be a big piece of it, because whenever anyone is sort of starting out in the cruise industry, I always try to explain to them that, from the original concept of, oh, we want to build a new ship, to when it's actually on the water, and then how much longer until the first refit, essentially you're thinking up what you want on board
10 years.
But 10 to 20 years down the line, right? So and you know better than anyone how fast technology evolves. So it's a pretty big thing to be thinking about right now.
Yeah, and when you're designing the IT for a ship, for the vessel, you have to do a trade-off between what is tried and tested, because you don't want to take anything that's too bleeding edge, if you like, that doesn't work, that's never been tried and tested in a maritime environment, versus you don't want something that is going to be out of date in 5 years' time. So that's always the trade-off that you've got to make when putting in technology. But
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say I guess one good thing about, it's not a good thing because it's horrible, but an advantage of all the ships not sailing is that they are sitting there ready for upgrades, because normally you only get 3 weeks in every 5 years or so to be able to get a ship into dry dock and do, when it's not in operation, to be able to do these upgrades, whereas the cruise lines have had a whole year of the ships sitting there. The problem has actually been is getting the people to the ships to do the upgrades because of the global travel bans. So,
but overall, have there been a lot of upgrades done over this past year?
Oh yeah. Certainly in terms of the, if you just look at contact tracing alone, I mean,
of course,
there's needed to be a lot of infrastructure upgrades on board the vessels to put all the beacons on to manage that. And I think the cruise lines have sort of tried it on 1 or 2 ships or 3 ships, and they're really trying to make sure that the technology works before they roll it out to the rest of the fleet, because they know, I think that they know that 2020 is not going to be a massive bumper year. They're still going to be operating at lower capacity, probably with fewer ships. So they need to get the technology right, because I think even though everybody's talking about vaccination certificates, that we're all hoping that will be the path out of this, but these protocols and processes that are being put in place, they're still going to be there. And I still think that we're going to need, in the event of outbreaks, we're going to need all this biosecurity on the ships and the ability to contact trace. So they know that this technology isn't it's not a 6-month investment, or it's something that needs to be there for the future.
Absolutely. Well, this is very exciting. I'm excited for Seatrade Virtual Tech and Innovation, and you chairing the day for us and learning more about what's to come, I guess.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it, actually. There's been a lot of innovation happened over the last year, or the innovation's been certainly accelerated. You know, our business has been innovating, and so has the rest of the cruise industry. So without giving too much away, I'm sure there's going to be lots and lots of new things that people haven't heard of. And I've just been really excited, as I say, just talking to some of the panelists and some of the people that are going to be speaking about what they've been doing. And it's amazing what some of the stuff that's going to happen in order to get the ships returning to service.
Absolutely, it's right around the corner. So well, thank you so much, Ian, for helping us put together the program for April 14th.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's been really good. It's been really good working with your team. It's always good working with them, and it's really easy. And yeah, I just enjoy doing it, and I enjoy. It's a passion of mine. It's just innovation within cruise and utilizing technology to just make cruise better and safer.
Well, yes, I remember the first time I met you. I could feel it through and through. I think we were on the launch of the Celebrity Edge, I believe.
Oh yeah, we were. Yes, I remember that. And actually, that was the first, actually, because they on that sailing they launched the facial recognition disembarkation. Yes. If you remember when we came down the gangway, and that was one of the main reasons I was on that sailing, because I just wanted to see that technology. So yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the most seamless disembarkation processes we went through, for sure. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Ian, for joining me today.
You're welcome.
And look forward to seeing you on the 14th of April.